Hi, welcome to the Divine Insight Show. Thank you so much for joining us wherever and whenever you're doing so. I am thrilled to be here with you today and very excited to introduce you to Debbie Anderson, British clairvoyant and spirit communicator, who is one of the leading experts in North America on the use of oracle cards. She experienced spirit communicating phenomenon from her early childhood and started using tarot to guide friends, and she realized that it was not just the cards that were providing guidance. She was using her intuitive skills to augment what was on the card. And eventually, Spirit directed her to apply those skills to create her own decks to help people clear and enhance their personal vibrational energy. And in the process, she became aware of how to guide individuals on maximizing their own intuitive skills through the use of oracle cards. And she's here with me today to share her story and her incredible insights on the use of oracle cards to enhance her life decisions and much more. Debbie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Travis.
You're so welcome, and I'm so grateful for your time and joining me today and sharing with viewers and listeners one of the most ancient divination tools that's been around, and how powerful they really are, as well as the ways in which viewers and listeners can connect to your deck and to connect to their own intuition. First, I understand that growing up in England, you were encouraged to hide your gifts for fear of being institutionalized. Can you share a bit about what that was like for you?
Yes, it was more so the timing. And of course, we live in this very enlightened age at the moment. And I'm so blessed for everybody that is growing up and being part of this in our world now. But of course, then back in the early 1960s, especially in England, it wasn't talked about, and there certainly wasn't the openness, and of course there was no internet or anything like that. And at that time in my life, my parents had gone through a divorce. My mom was living on her own, bringing up 3 children, and all of those kind of things sort of bottled into it. So it seemed every time I opened my mouth about something like this, I would get, "Who are you? What are you doing? Be quiet," kind of thing. You know, children were to be seen and not heard. And it was one of these phenomena that happened, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. We would go to church on Sunday and things like that. So we were the average, family. And I was coming home from school on a bus, and I looked down. I was up on the top level of the bus, and I looked down and I saw Jesus. And I truly do believe I saw Jesus there at that time, and he was just smiling back at me, and I'm like, wow, this is so fantastic. I wanted everybody else on the top level of the bus to see what I could see, because I still at that point was making this assumption that everybody could see what I could see. And so of course I shouted out in my eagerness as a young sort of teenage child to go, "Hey, look, there's Jesus." And everybody started, "Hey, we've been on that bus or that train or that vehicle." And we're like, okay, let's just step back again. So of course in my sadness, he's still there smiling at me, and I'm smiling back, and everybody's backing away. And I sat down in my seat, and I thought, okay, be quiet here. And of course, what I didn't realize was somebody obviously on the bus must have known my mom and said something about this, or somehow in this very small community where we live, there was these, the Anderson child is losing the plot kind of thing. So my mum took me to see a psychiatrist, and sadly in those days, and I truly believe to this day, that there are many individuals that were placed into institutions, mental institutions, that were not psychotic or not in any way schizophrenic, but they were actually seeing and communicating with spirit. So of course my guys basically said, like, "Zip it, kid, don't say a word, just take the rap, you're going to have to deal with this." And of course I was thinking, this seems to keep happening with me. I'm not really happy with the way that I can walk into there, do this, and then I get into trouble for it. I truly couldn't understand that. So I did, my mum was very upset with me, because she had, basically said to the psychiatrist, she's seeing and hearing things. And I sat there and I said, "No, I was just doing it to get attention." And my mum went absolutely ape on me, as parents do. Come on, it's a human thing. So at that point, I was sort of feeling like that, where we cross our arms and we get really, what's going on here with you, spirit? And they basically said, we're going to just This is going to be something that keeps happening in your life. There's going to be a move forward and then you'll stop, and then you move forward and you'll stop. We're always here for you. So at that point, I think I would just, with friends that wanted a reading or something like that, I would grab out my tarot cards and do this little fun thing and just say, oh yeah, we're just playing here, and really down it, sort of make it sort of not seem as big as it was. And so, you know, that sort of happened into when I got into my 20s, I decided I wanted to do this workshop to learn how to read the tarot properly. Because all I had ever done was grab the deck and just played with the cards and maybe read a bit of the information on it, but I was just winging it as far as I was concerned. But it was there that I realized that I wasn't winging it. I was actually tapping into spirit. I was tapping into my higher self, and I was getting the answers because people were saying to me, you're spot on, even though the instructor was saying, how are you doing this? What are you doing, woman? You know, you're not reading the deck as you should do. And we've all been there. And I always say to people, if somebody sitting opposite you is resonating with what you're saying to them, don't worry what the book says or the way you're supposed to do it. Because I truly believe that's when we're connected to our higher self, our intuition, and just doing it in the natural way that is there for everyone.
Yeah, that's such a perfect, you know, really explanation into what a lot of the teaching that we do in the spirit realm is to really understand that our higher self, our spirit guides know us better than we do. Absolutely. And know that we are perfectly aligning ourselves into the moment of our highest intuition. And it's about what is meaningful to me so that I can communicate what's most beneficial to the person that I'm working with.
Otherwise, and sometimes our ego gets in the way as well. And we're trying to do it right. You know, that's what I've always found in my life, that, you know, I'm trying to do it the right way. Whereas it's not really the right way. It's how I've had it perceived or shared with me by those who think they are the authorities. So, you know, it's something that all of us have to, we can learn, definitely we can learn, but once we're connected to, I always say, plugged into the source, just let it roll.
Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciated what you were talking about. You know, we are in a different age than we were several hundred years ago, where people like us were burned at stakes, buried alive, stabbed to death, beheaded, all of those things which in the past life world that I do healings with, that I see and resolve. But what's interesting about that in your story is that, you know, the psychological term for people like us who can connect consciously with the spirit realm, they use a term called prescience. And so I worked with a psychiatrist because I was suffering significantly with ADHD and PTSD and was communicating with spirit. And I was trying to manage how my brain was working at the same time, seeing things that were not there in the physical sense. So it's really fascinating how we each go through our processes. And I think, you know, we're coming to a place where, and I love, you know, the lessons that you bring out in this as well, that, you know, this isn't something to fear, but something to embrace within us. What would you say to people who are struggling with that in their lives?
Well, I suppose by stepping back, we have to look at what's surrounding our life. It's not just us, you know, like who are the people in there? Like anybody in life, who are the people around you? Are they being supportive of you on this journey? And if not, then we have to question why and what is their, I always say, what is their stake in your life? So that was something for me as I was going through life. I had to realize that there were some people I could discuss this openly with, and there were some that I really shouldn't even share what I'm even getting for them. So that would be probably the first thing. Decide on who you can entrust with what you're getting. Definitely do all of the things that I always say is to connect with spirit. And spirit, when they want us to connect, they will alert us or bring us into that awareness, whether they wake us up at 3 a.m. in the morning, which is a very big favorite of theirs if they're trying to get our attention. And for anybody that experiences that, like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what is happening, I would negotiate with spirit. to the
Mhm.
point of, okay, 3 a.m. in the morning really doesn't work for me because I have to get up at 6 a.m. for my corporate world job, my job that I'm doing that earns me my money. So can we maybe do this at 5 a.m.? I get up an hour earlier rather than having broken sleep and not really feeling the greatest by the time. So I always say to people, when you do that, turn up. Because if not, you'll go back to being woken up at 3 a.m. in the morning. Because if they want to communicate something with you or help you with something, that's the only time that sometimes they can tap in to us, because we're not busy with our pinging, tinging phones or distracted with our day-to-day lives and things like that. So that would be something else I would suggest. Take time to spend with spirit, whether it's through meditation, whether it's going out into nature, watching something that's brings you into alignment, listening to something, reading something. They're all the things that we can do for ourselves to open ourselves up. So that
Beautiful.
with the people, it's just, I always say, in a way, what soothes our soul. And, you know, some people say, well, you know, for me to connect with spirit, I really need some racy kind of music. I'm like, so then do it. Because we're all different. We're all individual.
Yeah,
You know, for
I
me,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah, I do. And I think we have so many stories that we've read about and movies that bring out this idea and concept that it's a bad, negative. We're going to conjure demons and stuff.
yes,
And though there are, you know, lower vibrational entities that can
yeah,
tend to be attracted to us, I think one of the most important things that I learned early on, like you, I had someone wake me up, you know, at 3 in the morning, and I look up, and of course nobody's there except I
yeah.
see etherically this like mid-40s woman, redhead, and I was like, no, not while I'm asleep, not while I'm at my day job, not while I'm driving, not while I'm at the grocery store, because I'm
Yeah.
trying to just get my groceries and go home.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
the universe responds to our free will, and I love
Yeah.
that about that.
Yes.
But I'd love to talk to you about
Oh,
this beautiful newest deck that you have brought forth. For those listening and not watching on YouTube, I encourage you to Google Debbie Anderson Vibrational Energy Oracle Cards when you get a chance, or you can check out this YouTube show on the Divine Insight channel and get a glimpse of the cards that we're talking about. Here they are, and here's the front of
I
the
have
deck.
my deck here.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about these beautiful cards. And can you just briefly talk about what the difference is between a tarot or classic tarot
Yes.
deck
Yeah.
and your oracle cards?
Yeah. And I always say to people, one is not better than,
Right.
it's just what we resonate with. And for anybody that hasn't got a deck or they're contemplating on a deck, one thing I will share with you, if you've heard that somebody has to buy it for you, let go of that thought. Truly let go of that thought. Go
Really,
and buy
I
your
had
own.
never heard that.
Oh my goodness, I have heard that so many times, that when you have your very first deck, you have to have somebody gift it to you, buy it to you. So I said,
Oh,
but what if somebody has a different taste to you, or you
yeah,
don't
it could
have
be 30
anybody?
years later.
Or what if you get that deck and it's not the deck you like? It's like, oh, I've got to use it here because this
Mm,
is what. So that's the first thing I would say. So if you're
mm,
drawn to an oracle deck or a tarot deck, and the difference with the two is, I always find that an oracle deck you can just pick up and play with. You don't, like with a tarot deck, you have arcanas, major arcanas and minor arcanas, and arcanas actually are secrets. And when we think of a deck, it does hold secrets, and it's beautiful. And of course, a tarot deck is made up of what I call suits and honors. So it has the
mm.
higher ones, and then it has, like we would have in a deck of cards, you know, but there's wands and swords and cups and pentacles or coins. So it's a little bit more structured. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I always say to people, play with both, see what resonates with you, and move forward. Whereas an oracle, the term oracle came from a seer or a philosopher who in days of old you would go and see. And sometimes they would draw in the sand, and I'm talking back into Egyptian times, or in those times where an oracle would see. And that's the difference with it. The oracle decks, as far as I can see, are, you can, an oracle deck is basically a response, a message. something that's shared. So we would ask a question, as we usually do when we pick up a deck of cards that we want some direction on. And because there's no rules of engagement with an oracle deck, you can literally pick it up, shuffle away, focusing on your question, of course. And I always say, take time with that. Don't rush into it. If you're doing a reading for yourself or wanting some direction, place the energy into that. You know, think about what the direction is and where you're going with that and what you're expecting, your expectations out of it. Sit a moment, maybe take a few cleansing breaths and connect to it. Like I always say to people, when we're going to the grocery store and we've got to get groceries, we don't just rush out, grab the vehicle, drive to the grocery store and go, oh, now what have I got to get? We actually sit down and we start writing some of the things down. I need milk, I need bread, I need cheese. And then we take that little list with us. So taking the time to do that. So the going back to whether one is better or not, again, it's just basically what you embrace and enjoy. But with an oracle deck, you can pick it up, shuffle it. The cards individually mean what they mean. And yes, like everything else, I always say when we start laying cards out, it creates a picture or part of a jigsaw puzzle that we put together. So hopefully that helps everybody, that the different, and one thing I will say is people say to me, I've got an angel deck. And an angel deck can be either a tarot or an oracle or maybe an affirmation deck. So an angel deck isn't a form of divination. It is another a graphics on there that somebody's created and they're angel based. And again, you know, some people are resonating with cats, some people with the steampunk, some people with the formulation of different oracle decks. And that's why there are so many beautiful oracle and tarot decks out there today. We're so blessed. There's so many choices. So
many options. I often would tell folks, you know, how I chose my deck initially, of course, before we had this conversation, before you even created these. I went to a bookstore that had the decks and I just looked at them. I held it, I looked at the deck and I felt, well, what feels really, really strongly to me? What's calling to me? What excites me? And at that time I found a deck that worked really, really well for me. And I'm excited. I was really excited to work with your deck here because, you know, it works at various dimensions, not just, you know, the physical dimension. And I used the technique that you describe in the book to put down the cards it's a unique laying of the cards too. But I think, you know, the basics would be just feel the energy of the question, shuffle the deck and pull the card.
Absolutely.
Abundant blessings.
Abundant blessing. And it was funny because when we were sitting here, I got the card, and of course I've let go of it here, with dream catchers. And that was a card that I pulled out for today. So it's like focusing on my intention of what I'm doing. So we can pull a card daily. We can pull a card for direction. I always say, have fun with this, you know. There is a guidebook in all of my decks. So if you feel the need to go to the guidebook, do that. And if not, just see what your intuition is picking up from this card, the words, the colors, everything resonating with it. With this, I just get peace. And you've got this lovely, on the third eye here, this sacred geometry here of this person in a very peaceful, synchronistic way, and the blues and the colors, and it's almost like, you know, sometimes we do that. We need to do that. So allow that to come in. Maybe that's what I need today. That and maybe that's what the people listening in need. So
yeah, thank you. And so I'm curious about the process by which you developed these cards. You talk about it being from spirit, but why do you think spirit came through in this way at this time with these cards? These you call vibrational energy. You've had 3 other decks that you've created, but why this vibrational energy one at this time?
So actually the vibrational energy deck was my very first deck.
Oh, it was your first one?
Yes, it was my first one. Then came the children's deck, then came the 2 affirmation decks. And at that time, I was working full-time in corporate world and trying to balance my clairvoyant work and my healing work and things like that. And Spirit kept on saying to me, we need you to focus 100% on your spiritual work. And of course, like everybody, I think, I have bills to pay. In this world, there are bills to pay. So how are we going to do this? And it's like, well, you're just going to have to do it. You have to trust in us. So of course, I listened with one ear, as I always say, to Spirit. And then I had a sequence of events, synchronicities, if you like. I always say it's like Greedo and the boys being sent in to take us out. And I use that expression with people because Spirit gives us little indicators, little signs of things when we should do them. And eventually, if we don't listen to them, things happen to us, sometimes in a physical way, sometimes in an emotional way. And it's not them trying to harm us, but it's like, get on and do this. A bit like a parent with the child that doesn't want to do the homework. They're distracted with everything else until literally the hammer comes down and it's like, everything's taken away from you and you have to do your homework. And that's what
you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what actually happened to me. I was in corporate world and I enjoyed my job more so for the money and some of the elements of it, as we all do. And I was working in a very confined space in a stock room where literally you had to shuffle in and deal with things. And I'm standing there doing this and all of a sudden, and everybody in the building was like, how the heck did this happen? A box came down, smacked me literally on the back of the head, crushed, compacted me down. The box still on me, and I had to be pulled out by my ankles from this very small, oh yeah, it wasn't a very pretty, you know, I've got a skirt on and it wasn't a very, it was one of those, it was not only embarrassing, but it was one of those like, oh my goodness. So I ended up going to physiotherapy. And during that time, Spirit like, okay, you need to let go of this job. And of course, as all of us know, when we go into that sort of situation, okay, so now I'm in a financial bind. Now, what am I going to do financially? And I was just a couple of, I think, physios away from going back, being given the all clear to go back to work. And then I'm rear-ended in my vehicle. So I have to start this whole process, this whole healing process again. And my job was taken away from me. So I didn't just walk away from it, it was taken from me. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I think I'm getting the message now. So it was then when they started to share that I'm going to be creating an oracle deck. And of course, at that time, I'm like, I don't think so. You've got the wrong gal here. There's lots of people that have been creating oracle decks around the world that are doing great things with them. And of course, I always say spirits stand there with their arms crossed, roll their eyes and go, okay, why did I get this one to work with? And then they go into silence after I do this renegotiating, as I call it. And then basically Spirit said, you're going to create this oracle deck. So let's get on and do it. And so it was a little while before I actually was going, okay, so I'm like, okay, I'm open here. Let's just see what transpires. And initially what was happening as I was getting the titles of the cards. And of course, for anybody that's used oracle decks, they can be anything from 30 cards, usually up to about 44 cards at max. I've not seen many cards that have 52 cards in them. But that seemed to be the direction that Spirit were taking me. And of course, two of the last cards that I got, which at that point I'm going, is this a cosmic joke? I'm just trying to find it. One was the F word. Yeah, you can imagine. I'm at that point and I'm going, okay, so I get a card called the F word. And of course, people who see my deck say, is this like the real F word? And I'm going, well, it could be, but it's also about the balance of how we take things across. And the other one was life's a beach. And of course, we all do know there's another definition there, life's a whatever we like to call it. So at that point, I'm going, okay, this is my 52nd card here. Maybe I should stop. And actually everything stopped. And then I started to get the words. And of course, so I'm getting the how to do the 5 vibrational dimensions of the soul spread and things like that. And I'm going, well, I'm getting all this, but I haven't got an artist. You know, I think that's a big key thing here. And so I was, at that time, I was touring with my husband across Canada, and I had spoken to somebody on the way through and saying, Spirit want me to do this deck. And I'm like, great, let me know how it goes. And on the way back, they said, how's it going? I said, well, all the writing's completed, but I need to find an artist. I'm like, really? I think I know the person you need to connect with. And that was Heather Brewster, who was the artist on this deck. But of course, when I spoke to her initially, she's a bit like me. I've never done an oracle deck. I said, me neither. So we were in that sort of balance of here are two souls conjoined together in a situation, neither really knowing what was supposed to be produced. And of course, she said, well, what do you envisage? What do you see as the cards? And I said, well, you know, like the movie Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. This is what I'm being told for Spirit. When I find the right artist, the words will resonate with them, and they will know exactly what to create as far as the imagery is concerned. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, Abundant Blessings was the very first card that Heather created. And as soon as I saw that card, I'm like, thank you. So sometimes,
well, it's funny, I have to tell you that when I was playing around with your deck and doing it both sort of what I call sort of random intuitively, and then also using the intentional process of sitting with a question, Abundant Blessings came out several times.
yes.
As one of the cards. So I love that story, because when we step into our intuition, listen, and take the step, we often want to project what we think the answer will be before we take the step.
Absolutely.
Rather than take the step with trust and faith, and then allow the co-creative way in which the universe really works to
Yes.
use that as our advantage. And I think once we're able to start becoming more closely aligned with how that dance really works, we become much more flexible with life's decisions and open to the unique ways in which the universe communicates with us, often through metaphors or
Yes.
synchronicities, as you call them. So
Absolutely.
I think it's so great. What else would you like to share about this beautiful deck?
Well, I always say tap it, you know, it comes with the book, it comes with the guidebook. It's there for using it. But initially take the cards, shuffle them, connect to the question, see what card comes out, and allow your higher self, your intuition, your, I always call it your insider voice or your heart connection, to see what that card is giving you and resonating it. And like you were saying with the Abundant Blessings, if a card keeps on coming up, turning up when you're shuffling and doing a reading, there's a great significance with that. Similarly, if you're shuffling the deck and a card flies out or a bunch fall on the floor in front of you, they're the cards. They're the ones. Don't shuffle anymore. Put the deck to one side. Work with it. You know, I have people when they come for a reading with me, they're like, oh, I'm not really good at shuffling. I'm like, that's okay. Just do whatever you feel inclined to do. And you know, usually if the cards fall on the floor, I'm so sorry. I'm going, no, you've done it so well. You've done it the right way. It just happened. So they're the cards we're going to use. So
let's do one. I'd love to do one right now. I think what I've actually seen a question to ask that I'd love to pull. So I'm gonna do one, and if you want to do one too as well. The question that I'm going to hold to my desire, my intention right now, is what is in the greatest good for all of humanity who might listen or watch this show? What is in their greatest good to know in their lives right now? And as I feel that question, I'm just gonna shuffle the deck here, and for those listening, you can see on the video. I'm just
there's a card. See that? My card just flew out there, so I've just got to put the deck down.
Okay.
And I love it. So I'm curious to see what you've got.
Pleasure Dome.
I got openness. And I get the sense that those two are really connected with each other. Openness, and anybody looking at this as a bird carrying a cage. So we've been maybe trapped with something, but now we've released ourselves, but we're still not sure. We're still not quite sure whether this is the right thing to be doing. So we carry our cage with us, but the door's wide open on that cage. So we can go back in there for our security or safety, or we can just carry it and then put it down somewhere. So this is what I love about this particular card. And Pleasure Dome. This is like, have fun with it.
Yeah, I think what I'm feeling about this card in particular is how serious we all are and how dedicated to working hard and like working every single day. We are so busy, pulled into obligations and
Yes.
responsibilities. We've forgotten how to create a frivolity and joy in our day, and to realize that when we are doing what we enjoy doing with fun, all that abundance that comes with that joy, which is closer to our spiritual nature, comes to us very easily. In fact, much easier than when we're working hard for it. And we have this belief
Yes.
system around, I only deserve abundance if I work really hard and it requires hard work. Let that go.
Yeah.
Have fun with this.
I always say to people,
Beautiful
be
too.
in that moment, whatever that moment is. And that is sometimes we're always looking forward. We're always, and I'm not saying having dreams or goals or direction is wrong, but don't miss what you have along the journey. You know, many years ago, I was going through a very dark period in my life, as we all do, because people go, you were? I'm like, oh, come on. You know, prick me, I bleed. I'm human. I've gone through all the different trials and tribulations that everybody has in their life, but I now choose not to tap into it, just to use it as the experience that it was. And at that time, I was feeling really lost. I didn't know where I was supposed to go, what I was supposed to do. And I could just see this little light at the end of the tunnel. You know, and sometimes we hope it's not the train coming back to hit us. So, so I'm trying to get to this light. I'm trying to race through it, and I just want to be there. I don't want to be going through all this crud and stuff that's going on in my life. And then Spirit said, you know what, if we could switch on the lights around you at the moment and you could see all the beauty and everything that is there for you in this moment, you wouldn't want to rush forward to that little light.
Mm.
So sometimes it's what we cannot see, we have to feel. And, you know, and yeah, I've been there, done that, got the scars. It's been very hard in some occasions, even with all my belief system. And what I love about Spirit is sometimes like, oh, come on, really? And we've all done that. So believe that whatever's going on in that moment is there. And just say, okay, thank you for sharing it. Now I'm going to move forward in what I need to do. With the knowledge, because usually with an experience, it brings knowledge, even if it's, I'm not going to do that again. You know,
Right.
so
I think that is a very powerful lesson as we're
yes,
still learning
very
out of the
powerful.
contrast mode of our development. So how can folks, you know, we're running out of time for the show, but how can folks reach out to you, get more information about your work, get one of your beautiful decks, and learn more about what you're up to?
Well, go to my website, vibrational-energy.com. On the landing page where it says start here, if you scroll down, one of the things I would love to give to your readers is both the Vibrational Energy and the Earth Children deck. There is a free, limited, downloadable mobile app. And they can get that for free for an iPhone or for an Android phone. So just about halfway down, you'll see weekly readings, podcasts, and mobile app. So click on there and get your free. It's a limited version of the deck, but play with it. Just have fun. I'm on all the social media and stuff like that. And if that doesn't work for you, I even have a little button that says contact me. Email me, reach out, I'm there.
I love that. Well, hey, thank you so much, Debbie, for sharing your incredible wisdom, your story, and your beautiful energy with me and with our viewers today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Travis. It's been fun. Thank you.
You bet. Have a great week. You've been tuning in to the Divine Insight Show.